You're listening to the Piano Parent Podcast with Shelley Davis, episode 342. Hey there, and welcome to the Piano Parent Podcast. I'm Shelley Davis, a longtime piano teacher and parent with my husband of 4 mostly musical kids. As parents, we spend so much time trying to encourage and motivate our kids. We wonder if we're doing the best things for them. We second guess our decisions, and we worry if we're going to scar them for life. While you focus on encouraging your kids, I'm here to reassure and inspire you. I'll be here every week with practice tips, inspirational teacher interviews, and musical topics to help you impress your kids with your musical knowledge. Parenting is not for the faint of heart, but it's much easier with support, and you have come to the right place. Good morning, piano parents. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to the show today. I know that summertime can be just as wild and crazy as the busy school year. That's why I'm bringing back a few short-form episodes this summer. Last year, I called these bite-sized topics, What Would You Do? And you can hear those episodes if you scroll back through your podcast player to number 296 through 303. For the summer of 2023, I'm calling these mini episodes Parenting Do-Overs. Over the course of the last several interviews, after we finished the prepared questions, I sprung an unexpected question on a few of my guests. These parents offer their own personal, nitty-gritty, real-life stories of times when they missed the mark and would love to have a parenting do-over. And to be fair, I share a few of my own parenting doozies. I feel like so often on social media and even with interviews with my guests, we try to put our best foot forward. And that's as it should be. We want to offer professional, succinct information that will be helpful to listeners. The reality is that most of my guests are also parents, just like you. They are in the trenches with busy schedules, trying to keep up with practice routines, dealing with tired and cranky kids, moody teenagers, and doing the best they can. I think the timing of today's episode, when we're over the halfway point of summer, but we're still not quite ready to go back to school, the timing of hearing from Dr. Fernanda Nieto could not be more perfect. In today's little mini episode, she's going to talk about extending compassion, not only to your kids, but also to yourself. Do you mind if I ask you one final question?
Absolutely not.
What I'm planning to do, what we just did, that's going to be one episode, and that will come out in a few weeks. By the end of October is when this will come out. But I'm also, anytime I interview anyone, I'm also trying to bank little mini episodes for next summer, which will actually be kind of nice because it'll link back to this episode and kind of give it a little more traction. I'm asking parents to share, if you don't mind, some sort of incident that you would consider or you would wish you could have a do-over. I think it's really helpful for us to hear all these wonderful advice and wonderful presentations. And you know how we can have things that are public and on social media that are just, picture perfect. But you and I know that we live in the real world. And so I wonder if and I'm sorry, well, I'm not really sorry to put you just kind of on the spur of the moment, but do you have any thoughts?
Are you talking about as a parent or for myself, or does it matter?
I'm mostly thinking in terms of parenting, and if it helps you, I've got my own do-over I can share, and then you can kind of think about yours. That might give you a kind of a canvas to frame it in. As we've been having our conversation about mindfulness and how our children can mirror what we do, the one incident, and I'm sorry that it's not one, but it's a recurring theme from when my children were younger. We had a drive from our home to their school was about a 15, maybe 20-minute drive. And there were some days that we did not get out the door very well. And they, unfortunately, were a captive audience to hear all of my complaints from from the time we pulled out of our driveway until, okay, go have a great day at school. How are they going to have a great day at school if I've been barking at them the whole time? And so I wish that I had known then what you have shared with us today, to be a little more mindful and to recognize that they pick up on my mood and my attitude. And I regret some of the mornings that I sent them off in a not positive way. But it's making me depressed to think about it.
Well, and I want to say, just because I've spoken about mindfulness, that doesn't mean I never bark at my children.
Oh, good.
That is not, there's no perfect parenting scenario. That just doesn't exist. And I think, again, we all have to extend a blanket of compassion to ourselves for parenting in the time that we parent, with the stressors and the challenges that we have in our hands. I wish I had found mindfulness in my life when my kids were little and they were all crying at the same time as babies. That was really, really difficult. And I will share with you something that somebody said to me at the time. And she said, you just need to extend some self-compassion to yourself. And she literally had me put my hand on my heart as a mother, which started making me start crying.
Sure.
Yes. And she said to me, you are doing the best you can. And so the do-over for me would be to have gone back to those moments and remind myself to put my hand over my heart and to say, I'm doing the best I can. I am enough. I am the best mother my children can have. And when I bark at them, I will try to remember to say I'm sorry. And my do-over, I think, would be to have reminded myself of that, because I think we parents are too often too hard on ourselves. And from the vulnerability of realizing we can't do everything and we're not perfect, we're going to fail and fall and get back up again, comes out the grace and the mercy that we owe to ourselves, that we don't give it to ourselves often enough. But again, self-compassion is a practice. It's proven by research, and any of the writings by Kristen Neff, I can't recommend enough. It's something we are not taught by society. We're not taught to be compassionate with ourselves. And so I think I wish I could go back then and be more compassionate with myself.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your compassion toward me. And
absolutely,
anyone that's listening, put your hand on your heart and remind yourself you're doing the best you can, and give yourself some grace and mercy, the same kind of grace and mercy you would give to your children when they recognize, oh boy, I messed up. I want to do over. Give yourself that do over. And through it all, even the negative, the ugly side of us that we regret, our children are still madly in love with us. We are their favorite people in the world. So we need to treat our children's favorite people well. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And remember that when we can't find good words for ourselves because we've done something that we're not proud of, it's okay to say, I'm sorry. And that doesn't mean everything in parenting is allowed. There are situations of abuse and neglect and things that are not okay. But we're talking about the mornings that we're not proud of. We're talking about the day we lost it because we had to find another sock. Lost our mind because we couldn't take it anymore.
Yes.
That is human. That is human. And it's okay to show our children that we are human. And the more we realize that, maybe the less likely we'll be to explode.
Absolutely.
takes practice and it takes a lot of compassion. Somebody told me something too that I want to leave you with is when you can't find anything nice to say to yourself, picture somebody that you know loves you very much and imagine that person talking to you. And that helps.
That's enough to make me really cry. Thinking about how beautiful that can be.
Yeah. So I just want to commend you for the work that you're doing for parents out there. We all need all the support we can take. And what a beautiful space you've created for parents to feel a sense of community and a sense of support that we are all desperate to find. So thank you for having this.
Well, thank you for contributing. This has been wonderful.
My pleasure.
Whew. That last part that Fernanda said about if you can't show compassion to yourself, imagine someone who really loves you speaking that compassion to you. I'm all choked up just thinking about it. Still, I got choked up when she first mentioned it and choked up hearing it again. As I mentioned, Fernanda first appeared on the podcast back in October of 2022. Her episode was 314, and I'll have that linked up in today's show notes. And if you find yourself, since we're not quite finished with summer, but maybe we've done all of the fun excursions and we've done the camps, we've done vacation, but now we're just waiting for school to start again, and you need your own little moment of peace and calm, give yourself the gift of listening to Fernanda's full interview at episode 314. She spends the whole time talking about mindfulness and breathing, and it is extremely helpful information that we can share with our kids. But just listening to her beautiful, calm voice is a gift in itself. You can find that episode if you scroll back in your podcast player to number 314, or I'll have it linked up in today's show notes, and you can find those at pianoparentpodcast.com/342. Thanks so much. Give yourself some compassion. Do better than me and offer your children some compassion, and I look forward to seeing you here again next week. And that's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for hanging around all the way to the end. If you haven't done so already, this would be a great time for you to hit the subscribe button. If you're listening through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever your favorite podcast player is, hit subscribe so you will be the first to receive next week's episode. I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Piano Parent Podcast, and you could just email me, Shelley at pianoparentpodcast.com.